Shalom. Call on Yahweh Shem Shah. Shalom to the lit. Now, this is kind of like a continuation of the previous video that I put up. But I was just going to touch on some more points on why and what's going to make a man so precious in this time, especially a man of the Most High. Knowing what's happening, what's going on, and how to conduct yourself in these times, that wisdom, knowledge, and stability, that's going to be key. But I just was waiting on my food to warm up, and I happened to hop on here, checking the news, looking at some other videos. And I happen to see this video right here. It says, the shecession. Now hold on, let me get my camera a little blurry real quick. Make sure I got it clear. There you go. Now, it says the shecession. It says lockdowns created shecession for women globally. Now, I know you Akim, man. You know exactly where I'm about to go at with this. Go to the book of Isaiah. Chapter 3, because this is exactly what they're talking about right here. All that proud ass shit, that shit going out the window, man. Let me get to the main part. Alright, cool. So let me read this real quick. I'm going to just read on through this chapter right here. This chapter explains why Isaiah 4:1 is going to come to pass very soon, man. And I see it manifesting personally. Just certain situations I don't even put myself in because it ain't even worth it. And it actually be a distraction from me actually doing what I'm supposed to be doing. So I just don't even deal with it like that. But it's in the book of Isaiah, chapter 3. I'm going to start at, let's see. I'm going to start at verse 2. Now it says, the mighty man and the man of war, the judge and the prophet and the prudent and the ancient, the captain of 50 and the honorable man and the counselor and the cunning artificer and the eloquent orator. And I will give children to be their princes and babes shall rule over them. And that's what you see going on right now. The people that rule and that's actually empowered are actually some fucking morons. People that have authority and stuff like that. That's why if you when you go to certain jobs or different scenarios, whether it be like a convention or some type of business setting, or even if it's just amongst your family or whatever, people see you applying these scriptures to your life and they want you to be in charge. They want your say so. They want your decision making. Because people are actually really tired of the people that's ruling right now. They're just scared to admit it. But anyway, it says in verse 5, it says, and the people shall be oppressed, everyone by another. That's what you see going on. It says, and everyone by his neighbor. That's definitely what you see going on. You have people finessing their own neighbor, getting over on their own kind. Somebody might be the landlord of their neighbor and they adding extra taxes or maintenance fees or other hidden fees or whatever on them. That's oppression. And I said the child should behave himself proudly against the ancient, which is talking about young kids going against the elders. That's why you have a lot of young kids, they be cussing out their grandma or their mom, talking shit, and all type of stuff. It says in the base against the honorable. It says when a man shall take hold of his brother of the house of his father, saying, thou hast clothing, be thou our ruler, and let his ruin be under thy hand. It says, in that day shall he swear, saying, I will not be an healer, for my house is neither bread nor clothing. Make me not a ruler of the people. And this is one of the main points I want to get to. It says in verse 8, for Jerusalem is ruined. And you see how people, they ruin, people strung out on crack, heroin, whatever other shit going on and floating around, opiates. People just immersed in the damn drug trade. Bitches out here selling ass. Man, hey, the list goes on, man. Jerusalem is ruined and Judah is fallen. And that's what the scriptures say right here. It says, because their tongue and their doings are against the Lord Yahweh to provoke the eyes of his glory. And people always be wondering, oh, why people be in these situations and go through all this stuff. Hey, the scriptures, it pointed out right here. It lets you know exactly why this stuff is going on and why we're in these conditions that we're in. Now, I'm going to jump down to verse 12 real quick. It says, as for my people, children are their oppressors, and women rule over them. O my people, they which lead thee, cause thee to err, and destroy the way of thy paths. Because you have people that's in position right now. Just say if you have these certain millionaires or billionaires or whatever, that actually could lead our people and teach them to clean up their act, correct their ways, actually really help build them up and stuff like that. No, they just add fuel to the fire. Now, and in verse 13 it says, the Lord standeth up to plead and standeth to judge the people. It says in verse 14, the Lord will issue judgment with the ancients of his people, starting with the old heads, so to speak. And it says, and I know people hear me make these videos, don't think I should be bashing women because a nigga ain't getting nothing. Don't get it fucking twisted. Now it says, and the princes thereof, it said, for ye have eaten up the vineyard, the spoil, the poor is in your houses. And that's what a lot of people have right now. So the actual other part I'm going to get to in this is the rest of this chapter right quick, and I'm going to let this play some more. The Lord's one that's more edifying than the last video.
About 5 months into the pandemic, and tens of millions of U.S. jobs have evaporated from the economy. Much of those are never going to come back. And while this pandemic-induced recession...
Hey, and this fucking economy through, man. I was telling somebody else, there's certain businesses that's going to stay open to the end. There's only certain ones. That's why you see certain people that actually go to work, still get wages, actually get increased wages now because of all this shit that's going on. But a lot of the other places, though, through. Like that arrow right there.
Has impacted folks of all genders, stripes, and types, none greater than women. Now, it's no secret that the gender pay gap exists, but coronavirus has served to widen that gap and even widen the unemployment disparity between men and women. So women make up about 40% of the global employment, but since the pandemic, account for a whopping 54% of the total job losses thus far. This gender regressive trend is now being dubbed a shecession. So joining us to weigh in on all of this, Stephen Mead. He is the founder of Big Bamboo LLC. It's a startup incubator and accelerator. He's known as the bullseye guy and an entrepreneur that, creates companies.
Yeah, I love this shit too. They doing all type of shit behind the scenes.
And Ms. Desi Robinson, she's a doctoral student in health education and behavioral studies at Columbia University, and also a health and lifestyle journalist. So, folks, thanks for being with us tonight. Desi, I will start with you. This shecession, it is really hitting Black and Latinx women the hardest. Why is that?
Why? Hey, that's what the book of Isaiah talking about, man. That's why is that when they talk about, you notice that she say Black and Latin women. Hey, that's Jerusalem and Judah all day.
Well, hi, Manila. How are you? It's good to be with you. I don't think that the answer to that question is any different than, across the board, why we see disparities amongst Black and Hispanic and Indigenous and Latino women across the workforce. I think that we are disproportionately employed. You can see in the last segment that you just gave that we're striving for gains, and then when those gains are met, we experience something like a pandemic, and then there's a loss. And so all of those gains, those career gains that women make, particularly women of color make, they get lost in situations like this. And it's not anything new. When you look at what happens with war, you look at what happens with natural disasters, women of color, girls are disproportionately put at risk of having to do caretaker roles at home.
But women supposed to be at home though. See, it was a time when men was making a shitload of money, and then Esau slithered his way in. He put it being a serpent like he is, and started pushing these little agendas, setting up that CIA, Illuminati bullshit, bringing in that feminism stuff. The next thing you know, Jim Crow laws start passing. Women start getting these rights. A man couldn't be in the house if a woman wanted to get like Section 8 or whatever other little perks from the government and stuff. So, hey, thank Esau for that shit.
Unfortunately, do them anyway, even when you have a two household income. Women disproportionately do the lion's share of caretaking work. And then you also find them in situations where they suffer disproportionately from domestic violence. And so I think if we want to answer this question, particularly about the pandemic, we have to look at what the answer is across the board in terms of our socioeconomic fabric.
Yeah, that's right. And we should also, I think it's worth mentioning that a lot of primarily Black and Hispanic women are also essential workers. And not only that, but they tend to work in fields like, in nursing and other jobs that put them greatly at risk. And Stephen, I'm going to move over to you. You're obviously an expert in the fintech world specifically. We know, generally speaking, women are the minority in tech, and those jobs, they tend to be kind of safe from the pandemic overall. So in your opinion, why haven't we seen more women go into those more quote-unquote safe career paths? Why do we still tend to see women in these, traditional gender roles in the workforce?
Well, we can look at it down two channels. One, and we've done a lot of studies on this and a lot of the entrepreneurial things that we do in the incubators. If you ask people, especially entrepreneurs, do you want to have a business or a company? And there's a distinction between a business which might provide lifestyle, flexibility, more time and effort, versus a company which has more sacrifices. And we're not picking gender, we're just looking at outcomes. When you move into technology, a lot of times the engineering needs to start early. So the number of women or percentage that go into the STEM fields, even as far back as school, is still proportionately low. It's changing with things like Girls That Code, and there's new programs coming along. The other side of it is, and again, it's a byproduct of society, the upper echelon of executives within a lot of the technology firms have been primarily and predominantly male. And so with COVID, you have this laying off of some of the lower levels of the executive class, and that's disproportionately, a lot of times, women who either haven't accelerated up into the executive class or are in a different sector where the companies are cutting off the lower end of the employment side, and that disproportionately, unfortunately, affects women, minorities, and people of color.
Yeah, and speaking of schools, Desi, school closures or schools moving to online learning, that's also playing a key role in keeping a lot of women from going back to work now that some economies have reopened. Because like you said, women tend to be the primary caretakers of children. How do you see that shaking out with all these school closures and online schooling?
Well, I think it's a difficult situation because, as Steve said, that, women who tend to be in the tech field tend to be at a lower echelon. And so even if you have women who are in a higher echelon, they have to be in a situation where if they're home and they're married and they have a partner, we have to figure out who's going to take the hit, because with school starting, there has to be someone who is either going to be home to do that work. And actually, schools are not going to be fully functioning. So someone is going to have to be home because there won't be a full-time.
And who is supposed to be, though? This type of lady that got her master's degree and shit like that. Her ass ain't trying to be fucking home. Now, let me get this one scripture real quick. It's in the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 9. It says, "For the wisdom of this world is foolishness with Yahweh, for it is written, He taketh the wise in their own craftiness." And that's what you see going on now. These chicks with these little degrees. Hey, man, I know at least 7 of them. Still hit me recently about this shit. And it's funny as fuck, because, hey, the scriptures are speaking, man. Can't make this shit up. You be talking about this stuff made up. This stuff ain't made up. This stuff real. And it's speaking. Stuff that was written for our learning sake. Basically, a blueprint, basically, if you want to look at it like that. And then when you try to teach certain people or whatever and tell them certain stuff, they get pissed off, majority of them, because they don't want to hear that truth, man. They want to hear smooth things. Let me go to the scripture real quick. That's exactly what they like to say. But don't talk so rough, so don't be so vulgar. Why you gotta cuss so much? That's what they be saying. Nobody want to hear no nice shit. It's the book of Isaiah, chapter 30, verse 10. It says, make sure I go to the right translation. Yep, it says, "We'll say to the seers," when they're talking about the seers, they're talking about the prophets. They say, "See not." They don't want you to see the picture. You telling people, "Oh man, next 5 years, hey, the Most High about to take this damn place out quicker than any damn way." And they, don't talk about that. I don't want to hear that. What's your plans if you don't? That's why they say, "We'll say to the seers, see not, and to the prophets, prophesy not unto us right things, speak unto us smooth things, prophesy deceits." So that's why you have a lot of these pastors with these big ass mega churches they make all that damn money because they be in there prophesying the seats. They not telling people, hey, the elites got bunkers and space hotels and underwater cities. So when this destruction come, this judgment come from Yahweh, they plan to hide out and leave y'all out here. They not telling them that. They just saying love, love, love. That's all they saying. And everything gonna be okay.
School situation.
Yeah.
And so someone will have to be home to manage that. And it's more than just teaching. I think, some educators may be having a little schadenfreude right now, thinking, oh, now parents are going to know what it's like, to be a teacher. But I think, overwhelmingly parents...
Which is nothing wrong with that. Because while the man supposed to be out handling this business and stuff, he's supposed to guide the house and teach his woman to teach the younger ones. That's how it's supposed to go. See, Esau came with this bullshit and distorted the whole order of things. So now you got women, a lot of these chicks, they don't even know how to do proper math and shit. Or fucking actually comprehend certain stuff the way they should and be able to pass that on to the young ones. So the younger ones, they grow up all bugged the fuck out. And people be wondering why they be doing stuff that they do. The shit started at home, man.
Do understand. I think teachers understand what it is to be a parent. Parents understand what it is to be a teacher. I think there is a little space in between where neither one cares. They care about what their role is. But I think that what is different is that when you have parents at home, they not only have to do disciplining, they have to do meal planning, they have to be, someone who's going to also deal with the emotional fallout of what it is. Kids have had to abruptly leave school.
Yeah.
Children are scared. They're confused. We've had children who, under normal circumstances, behave very well, have reverted.
Yeah.
And so it's not just the teaching. It's not just that I have to be home and may also have to work from home. I also have to navigate, sort of the emotional spaces that exist within that. And I also have to, teach.
Yeah, moms certainly have a lot of hats to wear, right? And Stephen,
Hey, man, hold on. Before I pull this scripture out, I ain't gonna play no more of that. I'm just in there right there. Go into this real quick. Give me 1 minute. It's in the book of 1 Corinthians. Book 1 Corinthians chapter 11 verse 3 says, but I will have you know that the head of every man is Hamashiach, and the head of the woman is a man, and the head of Hamashiach is Yahweh. And that's the order, man, proper order. So ain't nothing wrong with that, a woman doing certain stuff at home. But this society look down upon that. Like I remember I was dating this one woman, just a quick little testimony, and she actually knew about the scriptures and stuff too. We used to always fast and do little stuff together and whatever. And I told her, I was like, look, don't listen to your little homegirls, who you know what they're going to do. They're going to try to reel you back in to that bullshit they be doing. And she got weak, and that's exactly what happened. Hey, but I ain't give a fuck, though, because I already know. I think about Joel's woman, think about Ezekiel's woman, different women that lost the faith and weren't really trying to really walk that for real. They was just playing around. Or they really didn't have faith like that in the beginning anyway. They just was doing it because they thought it was like a trend or some shit. But this our heritage, man. This is stuff you apply to your life. And people see you and they be wondering why you so healthy and you shining or whatever the scenario might be. Hey, like the scripture say, those who keep the commandments should fear no evil thing. So you don't really have to worry about too much. Now, let me go back real quick. And I'm going to just end this off for the rest of this. This is book of Isaiah chapter 3. We'll start at verse 16 and say, moreover, the Lord Yahweh said, because the daughters of Zion are haughty. Now, when you read this and analyze it, who else is talking about on the planet Earth? Now it says, and walk with stretched forth necks and wanton eyes, walking and mincing as they go, and making a tinkling with their feet. Therefore the Lord will smite with a scab the crown of the head of the daughters of Zion. There's a lot of women be wearing weave and other little caps and all type of shit like that. It says, and the Lord Yahweh will discover the secret parts. In that day, the Lord will take away the bravery of their tinkling ornaments about their feet, their caws, and their round tires like the moon. It says the chains and the bracelets and the mufflers, the bonnets and the ornaments of the legs. And who always wearing bonnets and shit now? It says, and the ornaments of the legs, and the headbands, and the tablets and the earrings. the rings and nose jewels. You already know who wearing them nose jewels all the time. It says the changeable suits of apparel, and the mantles, and the wimples, and the Christmas pins, the glasses, and the fine linen, and the hoods, and the veils. And it should come to pass that instead of sweet smell, it should be stink. Hey, hey, I'm sure you Akin, y'all don't smell some of that stink. It says instead of a girdle, a rent, and instead of well-set hair, baldness, and instead of a stomacher, a girding of sackcloth, and burning instead of beauty. Hey, and it says, and this is why 7 women gonna take hold of 1 man in Isaiah 4:1. It says, the men shall fall by the sword and a mighty man in war, because you got a lot of men that's in the military. You got a lot of these niggas, they ain't thinking about no scriptures. They want to go hug the block and all this other shit. So what they gonna do? They gonna fall by the sword, and them niggas that's in the war, they get shipped across seas. They gonna fall in the war too. So where you think the women gonna go? Especially when they see the elect out here, nothing happening to them, no illnesses hitting them, no plagues coming upon them. Esau's sending their troops at them, and they wiping out Esau and all this. Where you think they gonna go at? Now it says in verse 26, and her gates shall lament and mourn, and she being desolate shall sit upon the ground. And even dealing with that, hey, you gotta have a stern mind to even deal with that, because it sounds like all fun and games. Like, oh shit, I got a bunch of women. No. Hey, you're gonna have to deal with a lot of shit. Especially if you end up being one of the men dealing with that. Now, this is the book of Isaiah, chapter 4, verse 1. It says, in that day, 7 women shall take hold of 1 man, saying, we will eat our own bread and wear our own apparel. Only let us be called by thy name to take away our reproach. Because, hey, it's going to be a reproach out here. And it's already happening now with all this shit going on. That's why they got the title of this video right here. Let me scroll down. The shecession. I ain't never heard this shit ever. This is my first day hearing this shit. I've never heard this shit. Man, this is crazy, man. And this is why they're going to grab on a certain man. I'm going to end this off. Now it says, in that day shall the branch of the Lord be beautiful and glorious. And I seen this woman the other day. She had to pull me to the side and look at me. And she was like, you just so beautiful and handsome. You just let your beauty show. And she was just like a little Benjamite woman from Jamaica. She just was going in and talking about the scriptures and stuff like that. And I was just listening and cracking up, because I know, like, what she's saying is true. Now it says, and the fruit of the earth shall be excellent and comely for them that escape of Israel. Who's going to escape of Israel? The elect. The men that the women going to want to take hold of. And it says, and it shall come to pass that he that's left in Zion and he that remaineth in Jerusalem shall be called holy. As you go into the word holy, it just means separate. You ain't with everybody. You're not doing everything everybody else doing. You're on your own, basically, most of the time. It says, even everyone that is written among the living in Jerusalem. And that's what you want to be written in, man, that book of life. The living. Look all this other shit, that little glory from whatever other little stuff people might try to give, and little accolades. Man, the top accolade is being of the elect. So, hey, I just want to bring this up. Lord's willing, this is edifying. Hey, man, you women, y'all better humble down, because you ain't getting out of here talking about, oh, I don't need no man. It's only one way you're getting up out of here. And that's why the scripture says in the book of Revelation that my tabernacle is with men. And he say it's with you women too and all that stuff. Y'all had y'all little fun, y'all little glory, little hot girl summer, fucking booed up winter, whatever little shit they be coming up with, man. Hey, that shit going out the window. Shalom.